In the last video, we saw our protagonist gain a villa from the system, then wake up from his dream. For those who haven't seen the previous part, you can find the link in the description. Now, let's jump next. His roommate just looked at Xingwang like a weirdo. Our boy, Xingwang, sat up in his bed and began the process of locking in. You should do the same. He parkoured over the top bunk guardrail, jumping down to the floor. Curious, his bunkmate asked where he was rushing off to so speedily. Xingwang ran to the door and simply told his roommate that he was finally going back home. His first stop was the airport, and he wouldn't be coming back for a while as he took care of business there. His roomie ran after him, reminding Xingwang to pack his luggage, but there would be no need for that. He was too focused on going home and getting his mom a VIP hospital room. In her standard accommodation, Dad was peeling apples for sickly Mom. Dad notified her that their son would be coming over. That kid was so excited that he sent 100,000 yuan, which he allegedly earned through part-time work. Mom was worried that her son was getting mixed up in something illegal to earn that much from part-time gigs. Dad just laughed, as he knew his son too well. He knew that Xingwang was not the type of kid who would do something like that. Speaking of Xingwang, the rich blonde Jigachad burst into the room, making his flashy entrance. The look of worry was evident on his face as he asked how Mom was doing. He was a good son who didn't want his mom to feel any discomfort whatsoever. She assured her boy that she was fine. She just needed minor surgery for her illness, but her vitals were promising. Dad had already guaranteed this on the phone, yet he still came all the way home, and it looked like he had run all the way to the hospital with how sweaty he was. As he handed a peeled apple to his boy, Dad worriedly asked how work was going and if he had any trouble with the bosses for taking leave. Xingwang chose to be honest and wholeheartedly confessed that he had quit his job. At first, his parents were shocked at such a drastic decision. Any parent would have reacted the same way. They did not reprimand him for doing so. They knew their Xingwang was a good son who would always land on his feet. They also knew that he had been through a lot in the city, but now he could take a good rest and eat well at home. Suddenly, Xingwang's worries melted under the reassuring words of his mom and dad. They truly were his safe harbor. They had always been understanding and supportive of him. He then asked his dad if the medical bills had been settled properly. Dad explained that most of the borrowed money had been paid yesterday after their call. He even wanted to transfer the 100,000 back to Xingwang so he could spend it on himself, as young men needed money for many things these days. Xingwang declined and told his dad to keep it for their expenses. As for the remaining unpaid debts, he would like to settle them and pay them back quickly too. Hearing that, Dad started feeling a little awkward as he mentioned the relatives they had borrowed from. Seeing how his dad was acting, Xingwang already had a bad feeling about this debt. There was a possibility that his father had to get a loan from his uncle, and that wasn't a good idea. He stormed out of the room with the intent of paying those people back immediately. Dad argued that he would find a way to pay them back soon, so Xingwang should just relax. He knew that his boy worked hard to save money and he did not want to mess with his kid's future. Seeing the boys argue, Mom's tears started pouring down. She blamed herself for being sick and burdening the family. She knew how hard her kid had been working in the city, yet he was worrying about medical expenses. Xingwang had the habit of regularly sending money back to his parents while living a rough life away from home without complaint. He needed money to pay rent, socialize, and for everything else, yet he always put family first. Seeing his mom's tears, Xingwang tried his best to reassure her that he wasn't neglecting himself out there. Also, now that he had a new lucrative part-time job, also known as the system, there wouldn't be any need to worry about expenses ever. He could even afford to get the most authoritative specialist to treat his mom without worrying about the cost. But for now, he really wanted to go to his uncle's house to repay that nasty debt. He did not want to owe people favors, especially to those relatives of theirs. After reassuring his mom, Xingwang walked out of the hospital and came across a tricycle driver. He hopped on the back of the tricycle and asked the chill-looking driver to take him to 32 Hudong Road. The engine roared, and they went off on their merry way. Riding in the back, Xingwang could feel the egregious bumpiness of the road. As far as he could remember, the road quality shouldn't be this bad in this place. He curiously asked the driver why the ride was so bumpy when there was supposed to be a road repair project that started 2 years ago. Well, the government did start the repairs, but they just made it worse than before. They said the contractors colluded with officials and ran away with the money halfway through the project, leaving the road torn up and unfinished. Hearing this blatant incompetence and corruption pissed Xingwang off. The higher-ups in this place were truly lawless. In a poor region in the middle of nowhere, things were always tough. He could not help but think that if his family weren't financially stable enough to support his education, he might have been stuck in this hellhole of a town forever. After the long and bumpy ride, Xingwang transferred 5 yuan to the kind driver. They used WeChat to remind him that they were in China. Xingwang looked at the luxurious house in front of him with annoyance. They were supposed to be relatives, but these people lived in a 100-square-meter mansion, while his family only had a few dozen square meters of brick and concrete. If it weren't for them taking all the money from his grandfather's relocation compensation, there would not be such a massive gap between their families. Now, they even had to borrow money for medical expenses. He gnashed his teeth and proceeded to knock on the gate loudly. Surprisingly, a pretty young woman with red hair and questionable pants came out of the gate to answer. She knew Xingwang, and he knew her. Her name was Wang Ju. But why was she in his uncle's house in the first place? When he posed the tough question, Wang Ju just stood there as if she could not come up with a proper answer. But then Xingwang's cousin also showed his extremely punch-worthy face and put his arm around her shoulders. He arrogantly announced that Wang Ju was about to be Xingwang's cousin-in-law now. Xingwang did not really care about their relationship. He just wanted to see if his uncle was home, so he could repay the debt and be done with it once and for all. Wang Ju looked at his reaction and assumed that Xingwang must be acting cold because he was still attracted to her and hung up on her. Seeing his girl look at his cousin softly, the bastard cousin slapped her on the ass. He looked at her threateningly and grimly reminded Wang Ju that she was about to be his wife, so she should not let her eyes wander. She assured him that she was just looking at how fascinatingly pathetic Xingwang had become. He was not wearing a single branded item. Xingwang claimed to live in a big city, yet he was going backward. Wang Ju believed that the countryside was a lot better. There, her husband could wear Adidas and Nike anytime he wanted. Her bro was flexing Adidas and Nike in front of 100 millionaires. The dumb couple let Xingwang in, and he found his uncle playing cards with a few buddies in the lavish living room. Uncle introduced his nephew, who worked in the big city, to his pals, and the hint of condescension was obvious. Riding in on the fun, the bunkin card players asked if Xingwang earned big bucks in the big city. They knew some people who moved to the big cities and earned hundreds of thousands. Cousin Dakai came in to deliver the gut punch, telling everyone that Xingwang was so successful that he worked like a horse for a mere 5,000 yuan a month, while they paid old ladies to feed pigs in the village for 3,000. He continued tormenting his cousin, asking how much Xingwang had in savings. With the exorbitant rents in the city, he might be taking home less cash than the pig feeders. Xingwang ignored the annoying cousin and went straight to business. He told his uncle that he came by to repay the debt, not to make small talk. Uncle was too focused on his cards, though. It looked like he was winning, after all. Uncle assured his nephew that there was no need to rush, as he understood how difficult it must be for Xingwang's family. He would be charging interest anyway, so this was not charity. Xingwang continued trying to be polite, but Uncle just refused to take his money. They all thought he was struggling with no cash to his name, but our boy was insistent. He wouldn't leave this house as long as the debt remained unpaid. Uncle finally caved to his insistence and even offered an installment plan as he ordered his son, Dakai, to bring over the red book. Cousin Dakai handed the red book to Xingwang, and for a second, he genuinely wanted his cousin to relax about the loan. He believed that blood was thicker than water. But Uncle asserted that the family's college graduate was too prideful and didn't want his relatives' money, even though they should be helping one another as a family. A moment later, Xingwang finished transferring 51,000 yuan to his uncle's account to cover the debt and interest. Uncle hurriedly checked his balance on his Nokia phone, and his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. The kid really did it. He really transferred the full amount. Surprised, he turned to Xingwang and curiously asked where he got the money from. Xingwang headed for the door and simply answered that he earned it by working in the city. Cousin Dakai sneered and assumed that Xingwang was just being prideful at the cost of his mom's suffering. At this point, dignity should not matter. 51,000 could cost them their lives and savings. Sure, that might have been true a few days ago, but that was no longer the case. Wang Ju wrapped her arms around her man and proposed to see Xingwang off. She said she wanted to clear up any misunderstandings with him to avoid awkwardness now that they were family too. Datsai liked that idea. He wanted his girl to let Xingwang know his place. She quickly ran after our boy. Wang Ju had the nerve to tell him to stop holding on to any old feelings he might still have for her, while acting like they didn't know each other anymore. The two of them used to be childhood friends. They grew up together, and she knew that he liked her the entire time. But she only ever saw him as a little brother. Soon she'd marry Ditsai, so it would be best if Xingwang stopped his feelings for her. He looked at that which like she was the most delusional person in the world. This girl had the audacity to give him a whole speech when he didn't even care about her. Not getting the hint, Wang Ju continued on. She said that it would be bad for his and the family's reputation if people heard about his feelings for her. It would go against common decency. Xingwang couldn't hold his laughter anymore. He tried hard to stifle it and turned to Wang Ju. He simply told her to go take a look at herself in the mirror. Cook that delusional fraud, brother. Of course, Wang Ju was furious at such words, but Xingwang didn't care about that. He saw the whole situation differently. Wang Ju had never been his childhood sweetheart, just a friend he had fun throwing cow dung at each other. Of course, he remembered how kind she was as a child, and hoped that Wang Ju would not despise the poor and like the rich, but would instead grow up to be hardworking and cheerful, treating everyone with love regardless of their wealth. But unfortunately, in reality, she was no different from other greedy people like his uncle. Now he wasn't going to pretend like he didn't despise her. Wang Ju understood these words in her own way, certain that he was saying this because he didn't get her as a wife, and that's why he was angry and trying to humiliate her. But she was ready to forgive him because she would soon be his sister-in-law, and she didn't want to fight with him. Let the past be the past, no matter what it was. Such an answer surprised Xingwang. So what else could he expect from another greedy girl? He wasn't going to waste any more time on her and turn around to leave quickly. This attitude made Wang Ju even more furious. She had tried to appear friendly, but now her patience had run out, and she wasn't going to pretend anymore. She quickly stood in front of Xingwang and asked what he was thinking to do. Does he really hope to become someone significant just because he graduated from a second-rate university and lives in the city? It's all useless, and he will never become as rich as his cousin no matter how hard he tries. Wang Ju thought she had long ago understood how life works. The rich like his uncle can live in luxury, in a house of hundreds of square meters, eat, drink, and relax. While poor people like Xingwang and his family are forced to cram in a small apartment, constantly in debt and working. For her, the choice was obvious. But even there, she didn't stop and remembered about Xingwang's mom, who was constantly sick and making their situation even worse with hospital bills. And neither 5,000 nor 15,000 would solve that problem. She's also sick of being nice and glad she could say all this to his face. Of course, Xingwang was pissed at this little witch who finally showed her real self. She doesn't even know what she's talking about when she thinks his uncle and cousin are the richest in the world and brags about it like it's worth something. In reality, Xingwang and everyone else doesn't care about her and her future husband. And with her behavior, she just showed that she's just a narcissistic painted toad. Wang Ju didn't even know what to say and could only point her finger at our hero, trying to think of ways to humiliate him. But Xingwang was ahead of her. He had something else to say, because unlike her future husband, he is self-sufficient, works hard, is diligent and motivated, respects his parents, and does not treat people based on their wealth. And that's all much better than just the money his cousin has. And Wang Ju should stop acting like a crazy person and just look in the mirror. For exposing and putting in place another money-hungry witch, the system rewarded our hero with another house. However, there was one thing: that the house was about to be demolished. It was a bit unexpected, but Xingwang was going to deal with it. Meanwhile, Wang Ju was not going to calm down and kept pointing her finger at our hero, saying all sorts of insults. He got fed up and grabbed her finger and pointed it back at her, advising her to stay in this house with her future husband and not to harm others. Hurley walked away from this crazy girl, but soon as he got far away, a car caught up with him. And of course, he got splashed with mud from a puddle. Who doubted it was his cousin in the car? He stopped and did not miss the opportunity to laugh with Xingwang, justifying himself by saying that he was in a hurry to go to the construction site. After all, his company had recently received an order from the First City Construction Bureau, and now he was the one in charge of building roads in the town. Moreover, he offered Xingwang a job if he wanted one. There would always be a job at the construction site. Xingwang immediately realized why the roads in the town were so terrible. It was obvious the son had inherited his uncle's talents and corruption. In that case, Xingwang was ready to help his hometown and eliminate these scoundrels from government contracts. To do so, he went to the first city construction bureau and sponsored the construction of new roads in the town instead of his cousin's crooked repairs. For this, the residents were very grateful to him and promised that they would always remember his kindness. To Xingwang, it was just a trifle now. Of course, the system rewarded him for it. In gratitude for investing in the development of his hometown, he was given 100 houses to own. Even Xingwang, who was used to receiving generous gifts from the system, was shocked. He didn't even know what to do with all these properties. But in this system could not help him. It was a gift based on his behavior. And now he himself must decide what to do with it all. Of course, our hero wasn't going to blame the system for that. Better to have 100 houses than none, right? But even so, he began to notice that the system is becoming more and more abstract. And if before he received only small amounts of money, now he gets hundreds of houses. What's going to happen next? Will the wealth of the whole world end up in his hands? To this question, he has not yet found the answer. We'll find out what happens next in the next part. Don't miss it. Thank you for watching. I want to express my gratitude to those who have subscribed to my channel. I encourage you to support me by subscribing to my channel, and I will be Manhwa recap videos in every day. Thank you for your support, and I look forward to seeing you in the next installment.